Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Joelle, and I got a lot of questions about cloning. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Check out my bio if you want to know more about who I am, what I do. I don't know if and when TikTok will be banned. So if you want to stay in the loop on things that I'm sharing, you can follow me on Facebook, on YouTube, or join my email list by downloading the free cord cutting tool. All of these links and my website are in my bio. I don't normally do readings, but I've opened up a few spaces in my calendar due to high demand. I'm not sure how much longer I'll be doing them, but if you want to book one, go to the link in my bio. I got a lot of questions about cloning, so this is my first video on the topic. I connect directly with source, God, creator, whatever word you want to use, it's all the same to me. And I believe we all have this ability. I might be teaching classes about this, so get on my mailing list to stay tuned. I channel from source, I write it down, and I've typed it up here so I can read it back to you in that frequency, in that language that I've channeled from source. Thank you for approaching this with an open mind and an open heart, and for keeping your comments respectful. My messages aren't for everyone. If it doesn't make sense now, come back after your dark night of the soul or after you've had your spiritual awakening, okay? So let's get started. When did cloning start? It has been around for ages, throughout the centuries, and it's done mostly in secret behind closed doors so the public won't see or get scared or ask questions about it. It seems like a mystery, but many have seen it and others have reported on it. But still, not many know, but that is changing. It's a fortress. I heard impenetrable and heavy, guarded, protected, thick middle doors is what I heard and what I saw. Where do they do it? It is done underground in chambers, many chambers in zones protected from prying eyes and behind heavy doors and ample security. It is well protected and hidden. How many are there? I heard this a couple times. There are 8 worldwide, and they are unique to each other. They don't all communicate with each other. They have different purposes, serve different people. It is run by men in charge of the facilities who make big money by doing swaps. I heard it's like a political agenda. This really opened my eyes doing this channeling. Again, I heard there are 8 places that create and house clones across the globe. Now, I just want to stop and say, I don't know what anyone else is saying. I don't have any books that I've read on this subject. I don't read the news on this subject. I just channel from source and I'm sharing it with you. So feel free to corroborate this with whatever data that you've gotten anywhere else. So I hear that there are 8 places that create and house clones across the globe. They are underground facilities with the exception of one, which is to say all underground in terms of secret, not known, kept hidden behind walls of secrecy. It is run by a group of men in charge to run the facilities. They make a big profit and they do favors. Men in power, hidden agendas. Their foundation is secure. They get paid big money to operate and keep their mouth shut. They are paid well. They are part of a group of men who make money by delivering the goods in a quiet, professional manner. They work together in groups to get the job done. I tried multiple times to ask questions about who these men are, and I don't have information to share with you more specifically in this video, but perhaps I can do more channeling on that subject specifically. What I saw and what I heard, hundreds of subjects in form, under operation, all on the same protocol, done in groups with the same timeline. I see them all spread out in individual chambers on like a flat floor, like on a floor, and there's facilitators. They kept referring to them as facilitators, walking around checking on them. So they're all on the same timeline, just like for the sake of efficiency, administered by facilitators who inject memories and activity into the skull at the base of the skull. These are particles encased with data that assimilate as needed and directed by the facilitators. And I'm going to say more on that. Who has access to get clones made? That was one of the questions you guys asked. It is done in secret, must be in the know, invitation only. Requirements are money, contractual agreement, and silence. They do not disclose information. It is done in secrecy. They are invited and it is particular to them. They are selected to participate, well-known, people with funds, and able to stay silent. I heard that again. They sign an agreement, like a non-disclosure, and then they procure their product and its initial form, and the process begins. They are notified of progress, like via cryptic methods. They are not permitted to visit on site, is what I heard. And I heard it was done by word of mouth. It's really done by invitation, but like the people in the know, like who have the funds, they all kind of know each other, like they know of it, if that makes sense. When I asked how many clones are there, I heard in the thousands. For me, that was mind-blowing. All of this is new to me. What is the purpose of the human clones? To influence the powers in charge, to influence elections, to sway the public vote towards certain agendas. They are programmed to abide by their processing unit. They are uniquely configured to receive signals from this processing unit to make certain decisions, and so that certain outcomes will come to pass in the direction chosen / selected by the men in charge. So the vision that I see is like a clone in a individual chamber, and there's like a machine with blinky lights, a processing unit that is sending a signal to the clone, like in their brain. I know that sounds wild, but there you go. To influence the direction of the movement of the stratosphere. So I think they mean the collective, to ensure things move in one direction only, their way, their wishes, to keep them in power, and to let the little ones play with their toys like no one is watching. What that is, and what I was shown, I see a bunch of kids in a sandbox playing with their toys, and that represents the general public, oblivious to what's truly going on. I asked the purpose of the human clones, and I heard this, and there's a repeating theme of power. 1, to persist their power, their movement. 2, to control certain outcomes in their favor / power. 3, to ensure they stay in power. And 4, to continue their actions, their movement well into the future, ensuring their lot remains undisturbed, untouched. So longevity, legacy. What's the process? They take measurements, so it's an exact science. It is taken at birth or when it's asked of them, so like invitation only. So it seems like there's 2 different scenarios at which a person could participate. I asked what the measurements are, and I heard a whole bunch of things: skin elasticity, cell ratio, blood sugar levels, a whole configuration to match the original on-site. So on-site means like these underground facilities. A sample of their DNA particles, and it is mirrored, a copy machine to replicate all the organs, skin, teeth, hair as exact as the original, down to the precise aspects, infinitely small, cellular level, exact. Another question you guys asked: can you grow a clone body fast, or do you start out as a baby and it takes the same human years to grow? It is done at birth, but it can also be sped up in 3 months. It is a match. So it can be done on site with their technology, and it would correspond with the likeness of the subject at that age. It can take 3 to 6 months between paperwork, solidification, and different phases of programming to ensure maximum likeness of the individual. They are spawns. It is done readily, and they are available for purchase to the right buyer. Talk about a black market. It takes less time. So less time, I was like, really? It only takes 3 months? It takes less time. Once it's conceived, as in the idea that someone wants a clone, it can take 3 to 6 months on a fast track method for all paperwork, funds transferred, and the various phases of elimination and transfer of consciousness along with programming if called for. So there's like different purposes to these clones, right? It can be done quickly to ensure a certain person's assets are protected and safeguarded, and measures taken to handle these issues in private for the transfer of the product to the buyer, the product being the clone. It follows an organic, seamless process, step by step, for the production of goods. Many satisfied buyers, incredulous, but satisfied. Do clones have souls or consciousness? This is transferred to them on site. It is replicated with ease. This was really fascinating to me. There is no difference between the original and the product, only being that some are pinged, controlled by signals to comply, conform, act in certain ways. That's what I was telling you before about how I see the clone in an individual chamber and this processing unit that it's pinging the clone in the brain, sending signals on what to do and how to behave. When will everyone know? It will be known worldwide sometime in the next 20 years. It will become more well-known and accepted for their purpose, function, and persistence of the human species. It will be needed. How long does it take to program a human clone? It can be done fairly quickly and precisely. It is done on site in the laboratory by officials responsible for this task. They are committed to following protocol, and the transition is often smooth. Sometimes there have been errors where there's a short circuit and it's not completely transferred, incomplete. In that case, it is wiped and redone until it is complete. They are tested on site for weeks before they are permitted to integrate in real time. And by that, I see the human clones walking around underground in this facility, and they're being watched and observed to make sure that they are up to their standards to be able to integrate in real time. Do clones have karma? This was a really complicated question. I probably need to do a little bit more diving here, but I did quite a bit as it was. This is a nuanced question with layers of understanding to be revealed. Humans have karma, yes, and while clones are separate, unique to humans, they are only fully functioning at the guise of their makers. There is karma to adjust, and it mostly falls on the hands and hearts of their makers for trying to recreate in God's perfection without consequence, without permission of the ensuing members, i.e. the clones. Consent is critical, and they do not have it. They have no karma because they have not made this decision of their own volition, in other words, of clones. They did not willingly decide to come here to live in the state. There was no meeting of the council. There was no free will. It has all been taken from them. They serve the masters, the men in charge, and they don't control their lives. They live another. Do the people who buy the human clones have karma? There is much to dissect here. It is their free will to replicate themselves in this form. It's experimentation, and this kind of experiment is done widely in secret. Their karma has to do with influencing and converting others to their will, their plan, their power, their control for their own betterment, not for the greater good. Intention behind their wishes for cloning matters, and they each have different intentions. Would a family member or a spouse know if it's a clone? They are created one and the same. They would not be able to tell or smell the difference. It is quite a match, a replicate, an exact match. They would not know the difference. Can it get sick? Can it have sex or get pregnant? They inherit the same DNA, so getting sick is indeed possible, and likely they are one and the same. They can have sex with another, and the other would not know the difference. It's a replicate match, an exact match. The clones can and do get pregnant. There are generations from these clones, and they are spread out. It's been done for centuries. Yes, indeed, it has happened and is happening. It has been done while controlling the public view to determine certain outcomes and objectives. How is consciousness transferred from a human to a clone? It is done, this was really fascinating. It is done with an injection on site. It is done on site in a chamber by a utility practitioner, a facilitator who programs the clones. They perform it with an injection at the base of the skull so that all information is transferred seamlessly. I also heard metal programming. And when I look at this syringe, it looks like a glass syringe, and it's filled with metal nanoparticles or nanobots. That's what it looks like, that's injected at the base of the skull. I asked why at the base of the skull. It's the easiest access to fibers that send a message to the brain membrane and fill it out, like it expands out from there. With sensory information and memories, it awakens them internally, the clone, but they are asleep during this process. Otherwise, it would jolt them. It would be too shocking. It would probably be pretty traumatic. So it's almost like they're in an induced coma state when this injection is happening. Final message. It is done widely. It has been done so for centuries behind big doors away from prying eyes. The public, for the most part, does not know, but they will. There will come a time to reveal these truths as more people see what's going on. It will challenge their intellect and shatter their foundation of what and how they know the world to be, of how it operates. A foundation created and set up to abolish rights and formulate others at their beck and call, to serve a race of people in charge and their long-term objectives, to persist with their power and secrecy to reconfigure a new history controlled by them.